Hey, I just had a great conversation with my friend Eddy Varela where we take a deep dive into the analytics of my $20,000 launch week for writing for software developers. I think you're going to enjoy and hopefully learn a lot. Let's go.
Good morning, everyone. Today I'm going to be interviewing Philip Kiley on his new Writing for Software Developers book that he just launched as of 2 weeks ago. Philip has had a lot of success with this book, and he's going to give us kind of a behind-the-scenes look of how he kind of got to there. So we're going to look at his Gumroad, and look at Google Analytics, Hacker News, Twitter, and then talk about his funnel, everything included. So without further ado, here's Philip.
Hi, Eddie. Thanks for joining me today.
All right, Philip. So I'm not really familiar with what Gumroad is. I just know that's where you sold your book on, and I want to know why you chose that platform and why you didn't choose to go like a physical copy. I know obviously it's cheaper to produce digital, but I just want to know your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so regarding physical copies, I'd love to do that one day, but even major technical publishers like No Starch Press are having trouble printing and distributing right now because, everything's shut down. So I chose to go digital at launch, figuring that what's important is the information, not how you get it. I chose to list on Gumroad because it is basically just a slightly more advanced payments processing platform. So it handles everything in terms of discount codes, chargebacks, refunds, all that sort of stuff. It has a really great e-commerce presence, and I think that it has some of the lowest fees of anything I looked at. I pay $10 a month for a pro account, and then they take 3.5% plus 30 cents transaction fees. And so, if I'd sold this on Amazon, instead of netting almost $20,000 off of this first week, I would have netted only 35%.
Because Amazon charges 65%.
Amazon considers itself the publisher. Like they even assign an ISBN.
Oh, that's right.
That says
That's
it's
right.
Amazon. And so they don't consider it themselves taking a cut. They consider it paying you royalty rates, even though they're not really doing any work. So it made sense to me as an independent developer to just go with an independent solution.
Right. Do you ever imagine that you would post it up on Amazon if you were doing a physical copy, or not really?
Absolutely not. I love owning my own distribution. I get the email address of everyone who buys a copy of my book, and so this way I can follow up with them, and they're my customers rather than being Amazon's customers, and so I know I can take care of them. Gumroad made like $1,000 off of this launch, off of fees, but I feel very good about giving them that money because they provided me with a really valuable service.
Yeah, so let's talk about how you kind of marketed this as somebody with no audience, because you didn't really have that much of a following on like social media platforms, and I want to know how you were able to reach out to and get like this kind of success with little to no following, as you were talking about earlier.
Gotcha. So in that case, maybe we should start at the top of the funnel and work our way down. What worked for me was first off Hacker News. So I made this post, Show HN, writing for software developers. Nice and simple. I made that at 8 a.m. Central Time on Tuesday, May 12th. I did a Show HN, which is a special thing that shows up in the Show tab because it gives the post a lot more longevity. It stuck around in the Show tab for almost 2 days. Anyway, as soon as I posted it, I went down and I left my own comment right here. So I was the very first person to comment on the post, and I gave a bunch of context for what exactly was going on in the book. I talked about how long I'd been working on it. I gave them a free sample chapter to look at, and I also included a quote from the book with one of the 11 people who I interviewed, and I'll get to that in a second. So doing this with the Hacker News launch meant that right away there was a comment, so people would click on the comment section and see what it is, read it, engage with it, ask me questions. It was morning in the East Coast, afternoon in Europe. So it got those first few upvotes, picked up a little bit of steam, and then by the time the West Coast woke up, where a lot of my traffic came from, it was all the way on the front page of Hacker News. And so the West Coast woke up, went to Hacker News, saw, oh hey, book, clicked on it, looked at my sales page, and then a lot of them went in and bought it. As we'll see when we look later at my analytics, many of my customers were from California. And I credit the timing of this Hacker News post to making that happen.
That's crazy. You wrote this first post, right? Show HN, and then somebody commented.
Yeah, so I made the post. I made the post
Right.
and the first comment, and then people came in and started commenting, talking about it. Even, this user I've talked to before about technical content in general, so they came in and asked a question about it. I had, Patrick McKenzie, Peter Cooper, other people who I'd interviewed for the book talking about it.
Right.
And so,
But you've definitely built your credibility from before, right? You've written other articles and things of that nature, and kind of people already, but not a substantial amount, but the loyal audiences, I guess, is what I was trying to get at.
yeah, and the other thing that was a lot more effective than that is if we go over to Twitter, I sort of borrowed the credibility of all
Right.
11 people who I interviewed. But
It's leveraging. It's not borrowing. They interviewed for you, and they also got exposure.
exactly. So I think about it, the way I've been talking about it is, investing. They invested a small bit of their reputation in this project. And if I'd done a terrible job with it, these are all incredibly successful people. And I don't think that a minor involvement with one small project would do them any harm. But,
Right.
In general, it would be a negative thing. But if I create a really great project and get a lot of attention to it and make something that people really like, then I can actually, give them a positive return on that investment. So that's
Right.
why I say lending credibility, because it's almost like I paid them back with interest.
Right. Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. And so now I see you're on Twitter. You got 240,000 impressions. How many followers did you have before you released the book?
20. Yeah, I had
That's
20
crazy.
followers. Now I'm up to about 850. And
That's
so that's
insane
where
growth.
Yeah, so that's where the interview subjects came in, because I made this tweet here, and then they retweeted it, liked it, commented on it. Even some wrote their own tweets, as you can see here.
Yeah, I
Patrick
remember
McKenzie
that.
wrote an original one, and Daniel Vassallo wrote an original one.
Yep.
This tweet sold like 30 books in 15 minutes. It was crazy.
Wow.
So that's where a lot of the traffic on Twitter came from, and that's what it was. There were sort of two peaks. First off, the Hacker News traffic sort of peaked early on, and then as people got on Twitter and saw these posts and saw my post, then there was a sort of second arc of traffic. Gumroad, the platform that I used to sell, picked it up and retweeted it on their official account.
Oh, wow.
And that's where a lot of this traffic came from. And what I was surprised by on Twitter was the engagement rates. If you look here, now Twitter has a very generous definition of engagement. So if you look at the actual activity of the almost 90,000 people who saw this main tweet, about 3,000 clicked on it. And then the other things are from, other actions you can take, like just looking at it, looking at my
Right.
profile, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, but that's incredible, dude. That's really crazy, actually. Yeah, I'm just still in shock of how much like exposure you got to that. And I think, were you expecting for it to pick up and explode in this way? Because I feel like, I don't know, like the people who you interview, you're probably thinking, oh yeah, these people are just gonna interview me. I was able to interview them, and then that's it. We'll just move on. Or were you expecting them to actually like promote it?
I was hoping, but not expecting. I mean,
Right.
everyone, has the rights to their own audience, and it's, it wouldn't be fair of me to expect them to just promote my book for no reason. But
Right.
I think that by keeping in close contact with them throughout the process, sending them a contributor's copy in advance of launch so that they could verify that this was something that they were happy to have their name on, I
Right.
think that was what motivated them to actually help me out with this launch.
Right.
I was definitely not expecting this either. The night before, my mom asked me, so how many copies do you have to sell to be happy tomorrow? And I said, well, my base goal is 10. It would be
Wow.
great if I could sell 30. And then my wildest dream stretch goal is if I sold 100.
And how many copies did you sell?
So on that day, you can see here, I sold 361.
So you were 3 times your dreams that day.
Yeah, 3.6 times my dreams.
Wow,
Full
yeah.
circle, 360. But then the traffic actually, and this was the other thing that was surprising to me, stayed up throughout the week. You know,
Right.
it decreased substantially.
Obviously,
but
yeah,
I was
but-
not expecting this level of residual sales, and that's where
Mm-hmm.
you know the other almost $7,000 came from.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about your site analytics. How many people started going to your website now? And now do you feel like you've gotten a lot more exposure, like compared to before?
Absolutely. So here you can see the 7 days with the users peaking at May 12th and then declining just like sales.
Right.
However, if you look at, say, you know, a 90-day range, you've got like one tiny little bump back here. But yeah, I mean, my site was
Yeah.
basically zero traffic as compared
Right.
to this launch. And
Right.
then it got this massive peak. We can look at exactly what people looked at over that week. So WFSD is the page that the actual book is on. And across the week, that got almost 18,000 views. And then people clicked through to all sorts of stuff. They looked at my main site. They looked at my blog, the other things I've made. This is
Right, 'cause
the
you're
post
writing.
that I've written for clients.
Right.
And then some other writing samples.
It's mostly
There was also
it's all your writing. It seems like it's all essays and posts and other stuff about writing. So it seems like the people that you kind of attracted were like people who are interested in written word content.
Yeah, and that's something interesting is figuring out exactly who these 18,000 people were, because my conversion rates were surprisingly high.
Right.
I was not expecting that. And if you go look here, so 17,845 look at the website. Of those, so if you look at, it'll show you the top line conversion rates for the different sources. For my website, it's 23% of the people who came, so that's going to be actually just under 2,000 from my website. So you can think about it, roughly 1 in 9 people who looked at my website clicked on the sales page, and then almost 1 in 4 of those actually purchased it.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
overall, 1 in 36, and that's why at a $36 price point, my total page views and my total gross revenues sort of line up.
Right. And just to keep for some people who don't really know, like 23% conversion rate is wild. Like 5% conversion rate is okay. Like that's kind of like the baseline. Like that's good. That would be considered good. So 23% conversion rate is like wild for digital sales or digital purchasing of product online. So congratulations on that. That's really good achievement.
Something really surprising is that half of my sales, actually less than half, came from the United States. I would have thought that, you know, it would have been mostly sales from English speaking countries, which it was, but less than half were from the United States. I had quite a few in Canada. The UK was the second highest source of sales. Had a few in Australia, New Zealand. So I sold books. I sold a few books in all 6 continents. Well, you know, except Antarctica. And lots of sales throughout Europe, and then United States, Canada. And then drilling in the United States, like I was talking about earlier with the Hacker News launch, the biggest source of sales was California.
Yeah, but also the rest of
where
the
I
states
sold
are all like they're all populated. Like it's almost everyone in the United States has a copy of your book.
Yeah, and that's really cool to
everyone's
think.
one state.
Yeah, I'm not quite there yet, but I even sold 4 at home in
Nice.
Iowa. And you could look at this as kind of a population density map because, you know, California and New York are the highest. But you can see, like, okay, this is a book about technology. You know, we've got Silicon Valley here. We've got New York City. Sold a lot in Boston. So just seeing that is interesting, and I think shows me that the timing of the launch was good in terms of rolling across the country as everyone was waking up. I definitely have been running a sort of social proof based strategy from the beginning, and you can even see that in my metrics. For example, this line here, direct email, instant message, this is people who came to the sales page, not even my website, but the sales page itself, and then sent it to someone. And then those people going in, clicking it, purchasing it, and the conversion rate on that is lower because they might have been outside my target audience at launch. But ultimately, that's showing that my overall strategy of just, you know, engaging people individually. I sent a bunch of these individual emails as well. it paid off big time
Right.
in terms of getting those incremental sales at launch.
Right.
The views on Gumroad is sort of just like a black hole
Right.
that I see, okay, a bunch of people came in through my website, but I can't track exactly, okay, this person came from Twitter to my website to Gumroad. This person came from Hacker News to my website to Gumroad.
Right.
I just have to make some educated guesses based on, I was just sitting here glued to my screen for the first day, watching this traffic and these sales come
That's
in.
crazy.
And so I can remember, exactly when stuff was happening and figure out, sort of what happened here.
Right. All right. So now we're going to go to the sales page and see exactly what it looks like and see how we can analyze this and see why we think that this is doing well. So take it away, Phil.
Yeah. So what I did here is start with some headline information. And you'll notice here that I'm not talking about the book itself. I'm talking about the people.
Right.
I'm talking about, this is earn money, make connections, and get noticed. This is what's going to happen to you after you read this book.
Right.
Rather than saying, this is a great book.
Right.
The one difference between the page now and how it looked at launch is I have even more social proof in that some people have been talking about it on Twitter. And with their permission, I've been linking tweets that they made about the book. But if we just ignore that, I think that the thing that sold copies of this book was the featuring interviews with section. I put the photos, names, and bios for every single person who I interviewed, made it nice and clean. And then I think that, just scrolling through this list was enough for a lot of people.
Right.
In case it wasn't, I go straight into a free chapter so that people can take a look at the content itself. And that's just like a PDF. You can just look at it right away.
Yeah, and I know that you're really against free stuff. So what made you decide to go with free now? I forgot to ask you that before because kind of broke up.
Yeah, so I think that so for one thing, I have a full money back guarantee and everything. So I want to show people that I'm really invested in my product. And I don't want to trick anyone into buying it because then they'll just ask for a refund.
Right.
And it's just not the right thing to do. So I want to, rather than this sales page being super salesy, I just want it to present all of the information about the book and trust that readers are going to be able to make an informed decision about whether or not it's right for them.
Right.
So giving away a chapter for free, I think that this chapter is, it's kind of sneaky because this chapter is all about generating ideas.
Right.
So if you read through this chapter and it really works for you, you're going to have generated a bunch of great article ideas.
Right.
And then you're going to say to yourself, okay, how do I do this? Oh, wait, that's what the rest of the book is about.
Exactly. Wow. Yeah. It's like what
Yes.
they would when you're writing in like elementary school, or high school. They're like, oh, just start with like a hook. So basically, you just hook them with that first chapter. You get their motivational part of their brain working, and you get them on that. Oh, I can totally do this. And then the rest of the book is, I'll teach you the best way to do this. That makes sense.
Exactly. So then, I talk about what's in the book, then talk about myself. I have some more social proof in terms of listing my clients.
Right.
Finally, I have a Q&A section, and this was actually really important because it's important to think about what questions people might have coming to a sales page and then answer them. A sales page... I read Nathan Barry said this. A sales page is entirely about overcoming objections. And so I thought of a bunch of objections people might have. Oh, I'm a beginner. I can't do this. Oh, I'm an experienced writer. This isn't advanced enough for me. Or like, I don't know how to program well enough. What if I don't like it? What if I can't afford it? I've given away dozens of copies of this book because of this paragraph. And, I don't mind that at all. Any starting out author such as myself has to worry about obscurity much more than we have to worry about, some people reading for free.
Right.
And so I even snuck in a few more keywords onto the page using this section. And it's important to have a place on your webpage that's just, for you to overcome objections to people purchasing the product.
Right.
The other thing I focused on with this page, two things actually. First is making it small. This whole thing is about 1 megabyte. Because actually doing launch, I wasn't even hosting any of these images myself. Since then I have been, because there have been some issues with them showing up reliably. But I got all of these page views, and it only took 20 gigabytes of bandwidth on Netlify, so like I didn't pay a cent to host all of these page views. So that was important. The second thing is, if you look at the Google Analytics, 54% of my traffic was on mobile. So, looking at it on a phone. And so I used Bootstrap to make sure that,
It was mobile optimized.
it would look fine on a phone. Gumroad has done their own work to make their sales page look good on mobile. And so making it look good on mobile was really important for, capturing more than half of my traffic.
Yeah. That's because I see your sales page is not really a sales. It's not really a sales page, not necessarily. Not what you would think of as a sales page, but it is 100% transactional. It is going to get you people to buy your book, but it's not necessarily you forcing it down their throat. It's like, wow, this looks like something that could actually be valuable to me. $36 is a small investment for something that I could make $250 to $500 per article. So that seems like a really good way, like a really good investment of your time and money. Because this is a huge victory for you. I mean, I'm just telling you that because it is. Like, I'm sure you've heard a lot of really great things from other people too, because this is incredible. The fact that you wrote a book and you got over 500 people to purchase it within the first week of launch is incredible. And I think you're going to get a lot more attention. And the book is actually very valuable. From the chapters that I was reading and I was editing, I think it's super valuable. I was even considering writing as a technical writer in the future. It was that inspiring. I don't even like writing, so. All right, Philip, thank you so much for your time and kind of pulling up the curtain on all this masterful arrangement of different technologies and web apps, and all this is great. I think that you're highlighting a really up and coming trend of technology where it's more important to know how to stitch things together to make like traditional businesses work well than trying to reinvent like a Facebook or an Instagram or a Twitter or Microsoft, like something like that. I think it's a lot more. The future is more about using technology to leverage your services and things of that nature. So yeah, hats off to you, man. Good job.
Thanks for watching this video. Make sure you check out Eddy's work on Twitter, YouTube, and his website, captaincode.cc. I'm going to link all of that and everything we talked about in the description.